And
Very,
also
very
metaphorically
interesting.
speaking, I also thought it was metaphorically that for the homeless people, the subway was the last stop, as far as where they lived. This was it. This was their bottom.
Interesting.
So our job was to try not to make this the last stop for the homeless person, to try to get them back from living on the street into some kind of situation where they eventually get independent housing again and get off the subway and don't have to sleep in the trains or on the street. So,
Or in the tunnels.
Yeah, or in the
Which
tunnels.
is something that I'd like to ask you about. But also, too, what I'm very interested in is, now you self-published this book.
Yes, we did.
How did you go about doing this? I mean, how did you find out about, on the internet? About,
Right, on the internet. I researched it on the internet since we were having a hard time getting it published conventional way, with getting an agent, getting a publisher to listen to us. So I saw this ad on the internet for self-publish. So I told Tommy, let's try this. Let's see how it works. And Tommy agreed to it, and we got it done somehow.
Now, how did you actually write the manuscript? I mean, you're both computer literate, I imagine, and so you sat down.
Tommy a little more than I am.
Aha.
And then we also had two authors writing one same story, different point of views.
Now, was this through the publishing company?
No,
that
this
they
was
were?
us. This was us.
Just us two.
You know, us two authors, being the two authors referring to, two gentlemen sitting at a table, looking at a blank computer screen, and like you said, how to start the first thing. So we figured, when we started formatting the book, we went to the beginning. It just made sense to go to the beginning and just tell the story from the beginning, where it started. And for us, it started. Well, the prologue is when we first met in the work capacity. That's where we met this gentleman at the Atlantic Avenue subway. It was the first time I met Nelson when I was employed as an outreach worker. In the first chapter, we go back to Nelson's early police career,
train patrol,
and my homeless experiences, where we actually met then, but unbeknownst to me that we actually met before. I didn't learn I met him until many months working together that we had this I had the conversation about my homeless life to one of his sergeants. We were doing an outreach patrol together, and I was just telling his sergeant about my experiences, including one of the stations I lived at, and that was when Nelson recognized me.
You actually lived in a subway station?
Yeah, I lived in the 57 and 6 was my summer home for a while. My winter home was Central Park. Up in the gazebo and 6th Avenue was my summer home, and the subway was my winter home. So
it makes sense.
I bet you did. You probably met me when you were painting the gazebo. It was probably one of the guys sleeping in your shot. And
so you were outdoors in the winter?
No, outdoors in the summer and underground in the winter.
Underground in the winter. And I mean, but this is a very heavily traveled station.
Oh, yeah.
Where?
Well, at night, back in the 80s, there were so many homeless people in New York City. We were part of the skyline. So we were an acceptable part of New York City living at the time.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, yeah.
Nobody cared that there were homeless people sleeping in the subway until the morning rush hour. That was when Nelson would come in, or other officers from the nearby district would come in and wake everybody up.
Well, I think that we have some images, actually, from your book of people who are the invisible society. I call them, really.
No, that's correct.
Yeah, it's a good name.
Because, I mean, you'll see people sleeping on the steps of a church.
Right.
And I think there's one in particular on Fifth Avenue in the 50s or 60s where a lot of St. Philip's, is
Central
it?
Presbyterian, I think it's called. Fifth Avenue and 55th Street.
And I know that one of the things that I read in your book, which I found very interesting, by the way, was that you would have difficulty getting people to go to shelters.
Yeah.
Why is that?
At that time, they weren't safe.
Really?
Yeah. And because when you get to the images, you'll see, but the shelters are a large hodgepodge of people that just sleep in this one big room, and you don't know who you're sleeping next to. It's not somebody who you friended. You just thrown in this huge room with a whole bunch of different people. The screening process was very light. You don't know who next to you has a mental illness, who next to you has an alcohol problem, who next to you just came from Rikers 3 days ago, and he's back in the shelter system until maybe his next trip to Rikers. Who knows?
Oh.
You know, you don't know. You don't know who you're sleeping next to. Nelson and I were talking earlier that in the shelter, you would walk through the shelter and you would see people would have their shoes underneath the legs of the bed. So nobody could steal your shoes.
Take their shoes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
They would
you
steal your
see
shoes.
rows and rows of these.
People would steal from other
cots
people in
and-
shelters.
Now, you mentioned people coming from Rikers going into shelters, but I mean, what was the option for someone that you found that was homeless? What, either they go to a program where they get arrested?
Well, if they were in violation, there was a lot of rules and regs that, you know, for New York City Transit subways. One of them being an outstretch, obstructing passenger flow, occupying more than one seat. And many of those were either summonsable or arrest. Going into the track area was trespassing. In the early 80s, we had a couple of thousand people in south of West 4th Street in the tunnels.
Fascinating. Even with the trains and the third rail
right.
and
Oh, there are places to sleep that are safe spaces
There were
in
a
between
lot
the
of
tracks.
abandoned rooms.
safe spaces.
Sure, I know them. I can tell you, I
They're
can show you a
called safe
few.
space because they're in between the tracks. That's what the track workers call them.
Like
And
for
they would
example,
sleep
at
there.
57 and 6, if you go in the tunnel on the north end, the uptown side, you can go in. You can go in just past the end of the platform, and then you have a squared off small room, which is the walls are about 3 foot high, and you can go
I remember
inside
you
there.
describing that in the book, and I found that to be fascinating because you'd never know that such a place
People will live
existed.
behind there, yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is that you have such a fascinating story that you've told in the book. How do you market, and are you marketing this book? Do you get help from the publishing company?
A little bit.
Or do you have to do it yourself?
We do a lot
or-
of that on our own. We go out every chance we get to promote our book through local newspapers, internet radio interviews, and just contacting people in the business and talking about the book.
And social media has been a big part for me to connect with people. I've been using Twitter. I have a Twitter page where people who I meet, and I stay focused on who I friend on Twitter.
Now,
focused to
you
publishing.
also, though, are a marathon runner. I would imagine you must meet thousands of people in that capacity.
I have met
you
some
done the New York
people
City
over-
Marathon?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm training for this current one. I've done
Are
the New
you
York City Marathon
really?
like 11 times so far.
Amazing.
This will be number 12, New York City.
Oh, that is absolutely fascinating. Have we already looked at the images?
No, I haven't
that-
seen for
Oh,
my book.
because I
no,
know
yet.
that we have some images of.
Here we go.
Just briefly describe what we're looking at. This
Just
is
a homeless. I used that image to open up for chapter 2, which is entitled Tommy's Homeless Experience, and I thought that by using the images, it would for the chapter it would kind of set you up as you're looking at it.
Right, now-
this was when Nelson was working undercover as a homeless person in chapter 3.
Oh, in
had to work Long
Madison
Island
Square
Railroad.
Garden.
In
Yes,
Penn
actually,
Station,
there
right?
was a large population in Penn Station.
Yeah,
And the MTA police couldn't use their own cops, so I went undercover for 8 nights as a homeless
that must have been an interesting,
Just
fascinating
what it would
experience
look like
as
on
well.
going in
And
the morning and finding somebody sleeping on a subway car. That's how it would be.
this is
Just a person who we saw sleeping on a car. Just took a picture.
fascinating.
and-
Absolutely fascinating. I mean, now, how did you wake someone up like that? It'd have to be very carefully.
yeah, usually,
Don't touch anybody.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
touch.
Rule: don't touch.
Really?
I would
Tap
we would tap on the side on
With
the
your
wall.
radio or
with my
something?
radio, and I
Me, just
immediately
my-
identify
I'm
myself
not.
as a police officer, and the first thing I would say, "Are you all right?"
Now, is this what the shelters?
That's what the shelters look like. Back in the 80s, that's exactly what they look like. That would be a perfect example of Sumner House
Where would this
in Brooklyn.
be? Where?
In our armories that have been converted to shelters.
Oh.
That's the inside of an armory.
Oh, is it
Atlantic
really?
Avenue used to look like that.
Not the
Atlantic
Armory on 60th Street. Or
No, the armory on 60th Street has a shelter in there, but they use the upper floors.
And that's the
They use
tunnel.
dorms.
Now, is this the tunnel that
one
you
of
were
the tunnels,
talking
yeah.
about?
That's one of them.
Yeah, I took that picture. It's very narrow. There's really no space to walk. That's one of the tubes that leads into another borough. That might have been from Manhattan into Queens. So I managed to take the picture standing in a little nook that's a safe space that's separated every 10 feet apart. So I managed to take the picture before the train
Fascinating.
came in.
And all the pictures, we convert them on a computer to look like sketches.
Yeah, the
we
pictures.
did.
That's
now,
me.
This is
That's
it
me.
really?
That's a picture of me walking in Central Park.
Were
I
you
used
headed
that-
any place in particular?
I
or
was
the
actually near
gazebo?
just north of Sheep Meadow.
Uh-huh.
I was just near Sheep Meadow there, and to me it was just a day where I was walking and just taking it in and enjoying the moment, and it just seemed like the perfect picture for the chapter that it led into, because I was going through some work turmoil, and the book is a lot of inner conflict with me on whether or not I'm in the right place doing the right job, because my education didn't come from school, it came from life experience. And I'm working with a lot of other people who went to school for this job in my department, Nelson's Police Department.
Sometimes life experience is much better.
Yeah.
Well, it worked for me. I was able to make a good deal
because
of it.
I mean, what are you doing now? Aren't you an emergency medical technician?
I'm an EMT now, emergency medical technician in New York City.
And what are you doing now? You're still working
No, I'm retired, and I work over at
You're
New
too
York City
young
Transit.
to be retired.
Yeah, I work New York City Transit at the arbitration room as a security officer.
Oh, that is terrific. And what I'd like to do at this point is look at some more of your paintings and relate them to some of the places that the two of you have described as well. And I know that we have, what is this that we're looking at?
This is a typical, for me, something that's very synonymous with New York City, the water tower and the little cars in the background, and high-rises with a little bit of greenery. So it was an all-in-one image for me, and it's done in watercolor. This is after a poem by W.B. Yeats called The Two Trees. It's a spot in Central Park that's right near the Mother Goose statue. It's above the band shell. And the
Some
image...
place that you're familiar with?
I'm familiar with the band shell, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right near 72nd Street.
Right near 72nd Street, that is correct. Yeah.
Now, I think you also have a poster of Washington Square Park.
This was done again from life down in Washington Square Park, and it was as much, it was more entertaining for me because there were street musicians and magicians and sword swallowers and jugglers and comedians. It was very difficult for me to stay focused to paint that.
Now I know. Oh, and you like to do geometric shapes as well.
Yeah. In the winter time, I usually do my etching, figurative work, and then I do a series of small fruit paintings. This one's called Cardinal Numbers.
And I know that you have
Magic Squares, actually. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's very nice. And this is a building.
This reminded me of any place in either Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx. It's just one of those places where you can just identify with.
What is this last one that we're looking at?
This is a place where I hope people would go. It's called the Conservatory Garden up on 105th Street. It's right across the street from the Museum of the City of New York. And it looks like Europe. It's three separate gardens.
Well, you're not going to believe it, but we are out of time. And I mean, you have just been just extraordinary guests.
Thank you.
And just it's been so interesting to talk to you about the different aspects of experiencing New York City. And if we want to get information on your artwork, you have a website?
Please go to my website, www.trombettaart.com.
And for your book, what's your website?
www.laststopbook.com.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest this evening.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed so much talking to you. And it's just been fascinating for me, and I'm sure for our viewers. And I'd also like to thank our director, who's also my son, Ed Middleton. Many thanks to our crew, John Brandstone, Zuli Nazo. I always stumble over her name, but I'm sure she'll forgive me. And in fact, Maria Giorgio, who introduced me.